Hello and welcome to tonight's conversation with Warsan Shire and Kathleen Newman Bremang. Kathleen and Warsan, welcome and thank you for joining us. Tonight's conversation marks the publication of Warsan's full-length debut poetry collection, Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head. I'm Kathleen McLean, the AGO's Assistant Curator of Talks and Screenings. And to begin, whenever we gather in person or virtually, we take a moment to consider where we are and the responsibilities we have as either guests or hosts on this territory, and our responsibilities as treaty people. So Toronto and the land the AGO is on is Mississauga-Anishinaabe territory, Mississauga. It's also governed by a treaty between the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Canadian government, and has also been occupied by other Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat confederacies. A couple of details about tonight's program. We're recording tonight. We have closed captions available. You just have to turn them on. And we will post the recording on ago.ca afterwards if you'd like to watch again or share with a friend. Following conversation between Kathleen and Warsan, there will be a bit of time for questions. You can ask them using the Q&A function. Thanks are due to our partners, Penguin Random House Canada, and A Different Book List for their support of tonight's program. You can find the book everywhere fine books are sold, but also at A Different Book List, which is in Toronto and kind of fantastic. So I'm going to introduce Warsan and Kathleen, and then they will be off. Warsan Shire is a Somali British writer and poet, born in Nairobi and raised in London. She's written 2 chapbooks, Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth and Her Blue Body. She was awarded the inaugural Brunel International African Poetry Prize and served as the first young poet laureate of London. She's the youngest member of the Royal Society of Literature and is included in the Penguin Modern Poets series. Shire wrote the poetry for the Peabody Award-winning visual album Lemonade and the Disney film Black is King in collaboration with Beyonce and Knowles Carter. She also wrote the short film Brave Girl Rising, highlighting the voices and faces of Somali girls in Africa's largest refugee camp. Warsan joins us from LA, where she lives with her husband and 2 children. And Kathleen Newman Bremang is Deputy Director Global at Unbothered, where she oversees content across the UK, US, and Canada, and writes about pop culture, race, feminism, and the intersection of all 3, while championing other Black women writers to do the same. She's a co-host of the popular Refinery 29 Unbothered podcast, Go Off Sis, a mentor for Canadian journalists of color, and a frequent culture commentator for many national broadcast programs. She's a Toronto-based writer, editor, and producer, and her writing has appeared in publications like Elle, Cosmopolitan, Corridor Magazine, the Toronto Star, and The Kit. So, Warsan, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us and doing this. And I'm excited to listen to you. So I'm going to vanish, and thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Wow. I don't know if you get Warsan like me during introductions. I just started sweating a little, but then also it's like, damn, I did do all that.
I always zone out. I don't know if that's always. You're just making me feel so self-conscious. I'm like, I don't know if that's me. Yeah, that sounds like a dream. Sorry, but yes. Your bios. But I really love listening to when my friends just all hearing your bio right now, and I'm like, yeah, man. So that's wicked.
Yeah, when someone else does it. Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am just so excited to be talking to you. I, like so many people listening and joining us in this conversation, I'm sure your work has saved me over and over. It has soothed me. It has broken me down and built me back up. When I'm going through it, I turn to your words. I read your poetry. I listen to Beyonce saying your words. I'm just so grateful for you, and specifically also for this collection. And before I get to ask you all of my burning questions about it, you are going to read us some of the beautiful work from this collection. So take it away and let us know what you are reading for us.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. So lovely. You helped me choose these poems I'm going to read.
I did. We were supposed to pick 2, and I had to pick like 4 or 5.
I am dedicating them to you. Okay, so extreme girlhood. Extreme girlhood. A loop. A girl born to each family. Prelude to suffering. Bless the baby girl, call of dissatisfaction, patron saint of not good enough. Are you there, God? It's me, Warsan. Maladaptive, daydreaming, obsessive, dissociative. Born to a lullaby, lamenting melanin, newborns, ears checked for the first signs of color. At first I was afraid, I was petrified. The child reads sorters each night to veil her from ill, protecting body and home from intruders. She wakes with a fright, someone cutting the rope. Something creeping deep inside her. Are you there, God? It's me, the ugly one. Bless the type 4 child, scalp massaged with the milk of cruelty, cranium cursed and crushed between adult knees, drenched in pink lotion. Everything you did to me, I remember. Mama, I made it out of your home, alive, raised by the voices in my head. And so the next poem I'm going to read is
emotional over here.
This is like FaceTiming my friends and forcing them to. Assimilation. We never unpacked, dreaming in the wrong language, carrying our mother's fears in our feet. If he raises his voice, we will flee. If he looks bored, we will pack our bags, unable to excise the refugee from our hearts, unable to sleep through the night. The refugee's heart has 6 chambers. In the first is your mother's unpacked suitcase. In the second, your father cries into his hands. The third room is an immigration office. Your severed legs in the fourth. In the fifth, a uterus. Yours. The sixth will open up with the right papers. I can't get the refugee out of my body. I bolt my body whenever I get the chance. How many pills does it take to fall asleep? How many to meet the dead? The refugee's heart often grows an outer layer and assimilation. It cocoons the organ. Those unable to grow the extra skin die within the first 6 months in host country. At each and every checkpoint, the refugee is asked, are you human? Oh, the refugee is sure it's still human, but worries that overnight, while it slept, there may have been a change in classification. That's the poem.
Again, you're making me cry like 10 minutes into this thing. Thank you so much. Again, that was beautiful. And then we have one more, right?
Yes. So I wanted to this downside of LA is mosquitoes. like, what the hell? I've never been, well, obviously there's mosquitoes back home, but there aren't in London. Well, I didn't experience them there anyway. Anyway, so the last poem that I wanted to read is called Victoria in Ilion. So I'm going to give a little bit of context. And, you know, this is going to be quite heavy. It's a short poem, but the context for it is based on a real life case of a young girl that was tortured and murdered. And so if anybody finds that particularly too difficult to listen to, I just wanted to give a little warning. But this is Victoria in Ilion. And so I was born 1988, grew up in London. And this girl, she was born 1991. So we were of the same generation. And when this was happening, I remember just thinking like, that could be my little sister. My brother was born the same year. And so it was just something that really, really made a mark on my psyche. And I wanted to write this poem with her, for her, and just read it every opportunity that I get. Her name is Victoria Kilimbie. So she was born 1991 and she died the year 2000. She was an Ivorian child raised away from her parents by extended family. And so she was tortured and murdered by her great aunt and her great aunt's boyfriend in a London flat. And she died aged 8 with over 128 injuries on her body. And so this book is also a dedication to her. And I think about her every day. Victoria in Ilion. Our Victoria, growing gills in paradise, arms outstretched in joy, wading in rivers of warm milk, swimming with the lost babies of Eden, backstrokes in the streams of heaven. Our Victoria, gently carried out of the water on the shoulders of angels, tenderly placed on the upturned palm of God. Blessings to our sweet Victoria, rewarded with 72 devoted mothers who delicately dry her small body with wool softer than skin. So yeah, that's for Victoria.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it is really powerful and important that you read that as much as you can. And yeah, I'm grateful that you shared that. Thank you so much. So this collection, I'm just going to show it as much as possible because I also just love this beautiful cover. But it is your first full-length poetry collection. And I think for fans of yours, it feels like a long time coming. So I want to know if it feels like that for you, and how does it feel now that it's out in the world?
It does feel like that. But it was something that I was intentional about, that I was just going to work on this book until I thought it was finished. But what ended up happening was that I just couldn't stop writing. And so I just kept going and going and going. And every year I would be asked, like, is it done? And then it's like, it took a whole different form. And then like years into it, I realized, oh, like these are separate books that I'm trying to like force into each other. I felt like I had this thing about, I don't know, maybe it was, I'm a bit morbid, right? So I have a morbid fascination. But also, I think because a lot of the people around me didn't get to have very long lives. I know a lot of people who went out like very, very quick fire, had very, very beautiful full lives, but died at the age of 30. And so I think I had this fear of like, I just wanted the book that I wrote to be like everything I've ever wanted to say, which isn't possible. So I had to then think, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do exactly? So I need to start from the beginning. And then I realized, oh, this is a book about my childhood. And so let me like carve that out of this massive amount of work that I've been working on for all these years. And so I decided I'm going to bring that out in installments. So yeah, it has been a long time, but this isn't the only thing I've been working on. It's just that I just needed time to grow up, I think. I really wanted to be proud of anything that I would publish. And my full collection is something I've been thinking about since I was a teenager. And I wasn't going to let anybody rush me. I wanted to be proud of it. And I think on some level, perhaps I needed to become a mother before I could let go of it. I'm not sure, because maybe, I haven't really thought it through, but wow, I went on a tangent.
You didn't. I find it so interesting that, this is a book about your childhood, and you said that you needed to grow up first in order to get there, that is really interesting. I understand that completely. I think that we don't really understand our childhoods until we grow up. But that's really interesting to me. And I think it shows on the page that you're still very much connected potentially with that inner child, but because you've done the growing up. Gosh, I don't even know where to start because I have so many questions, but I'm going to start with reading some praise to you because that's not going to make you uncomfortable at all. But Vivek Shreya, another Canadian queen, wrote that you are an expert sculptor. She wrote, "She molds words into clay, her poems into statues, each one a wonder that I return to in reverence, because in every line, every curve is an invitation to see differently what has been deemed ugly or difficult. This book is the art gallery I've yearned to visit." I love that blurb in its entirety, but specifically I want to ask about every line is an invitation to see differently what has been deemed ugly or difficult. That feels like a through line through all of your work and your poetry. And so would you agree with that? And is that your goal, to get us to see differently?
Oh, well, she wrote such beautiful, I was really grateful to read that. And I was like, me? I felt really like, when I got a lot of the praise, I was in the postpartum, like I'd just given birth. So I was feeling really, really crap. And I read all these words and I couldn't believe who they were talking about. So every single line that somebody wrote about this book means like so much to me. And so those lines in particular, I felt like she really understood what it was that I was trying to do with transforming. But the only difference, the question that you asked was, is that what I'm trying to do for everyone that's reading my work? But really it's what I'm trying to do for myself. That's all I spend my time doing, is just constantly trying to figure out maybe from another perspective, or maybe like growing up in a Muslim household, Muslim family, there's this idea that, everything is supposed to happen. Every single thing is meant to be. And so I carried that with like this idea of it was written, which is like ironic as well. And so I try to make peace with the past and interrogate it from every angle I possibly can, and try to understand what is the good that can come out of this, because it's already happened. I think that's the only option that I have, because the other option is to let it kill you. I don't see what the other options are, or let it make you commit harm against somebody else. So for me, I am constantly trying to figure out like, what was the point? And so the difficult things that have happened to me personally, I do try to transform it into something else, even if it is a poem that is able to comfort somebody else that has gone through it, because then it's not in vain anymore. Because we're all experiencing the same crap, you know, like all this childhood trauma and all this sadness. I mean, it was actually, I really love that James Baldwin quote that he has. He has so many, he's so brilliant. But there's one particular one where he goes, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm so sorry to butcher it, but he basically says, you know, you think all your like sadness and your misery is like so peculiar and unique to you, and then you read. And so, the second I started reading, I was like, oh, wow, so many people have gone through this, and look at the beautiful art that's been able to come out of this, and look at the beautiful films and beautiful literature and photography. And so poetry, I think, is able to like really galvanize all of that trauma very, very like succinctly, in a way that I think all the art forms combined aren't able to do. I think poetry is the best of everything that I love. Even sculpture. Sorry, I can chat for England. So
no, I love that, and so could I. You know, it's so interesting because when you say that, you know, there's the specificity is universal. You know, we say that all the time now. But that James Baldwin quote, I love that you referenced it, because I think that so much of what you do, and especially in this book, there were moments where I was just like, this is too loud. Like, can we turn this down? Because wow, even though there's so much of our childhoods were very different, but I think that is the beauty in it. And one of the things is this title, which I love, which is, you know, I was an introvert who created worlds and friends and personalities in my head for much of my childhood. The daughter raised by a voice in her head. Tell me what that phrase means to you, and what were the voices in your head growing up, and how did they raise you?
I think I remember one time overhearing my aunt speaking about me, because I was always I'm the eldest in my family, and I've had to look after all my siblings, and like a lot of specific, if there are any Somali girls watching, you know that you have to cook and clean and look after the children and look after your mom and go to school and do everything basically. And so I remember often feeling, and also that's just you know, that's why it's so hard to be a girl across all cultures, across all over the world, is that a lot of times it feels like we have to carry much more. And so if you're a young girl, and all of these responsibilities are on you, and you also feel like, in a way, you're raising yourself, and then you do turn out to be somewhat decent human being, then who raised you? What was it that, you know, you didn't do it by yourself? So I always was trying to figure out, like, where do I get this sense of really caring about like empathy? Empathy's always been really, really, really fascinating to me. And then I realized that it was because I was watching Oprah on TV as a child, and like she was the person who introduced that to me. And so that's not somebody I know, but that's a voice in my head. And then I thought, okay, where does my strong feminism come from? And then I remember a poem that my grandmother wrote for me that my mother would always recite for me. And the first line was, you know, because when I was, like I said, I'm the eldest, and everybody wanted me to be a boy if I came out with the regime. So when there was a lot of like, disappointment essentially. And so she wrote this poem saying that one girl is better than 1,000 boys. And so my mum would read that to me, and then that became a voice in my head as well. But then outside of like song lyrics and what you watch on TV and a book that you read, and, you know, the guiding saints of your life, whoever they are, like a teacher or advice. But then there's also, for me, in the backdrop was also like I from a young age, I struggled with mental health issues. And so there was an actual genuine, like, grappling with actual voices as well. But I loved it. And it also, like, I don't know, I just feel like until today, my mind is very, very, very busy place. It can get difficult, but also it is like, I think, you know, touching on what you were saying, being a young introverted child, I've never really truly experienced boredom or true loneliness, because my brain has all these other characters inside of them. Yeah. So I wanted to write a book for all the people who had to raise themselves, who had to raise others, and who also just found this inner world for themselves and a way to escape. I used to write these little short stories when I was like 10 years old, and it really felt like it was coming true. Like I would be like, okay, and my boyfriend, his name is, I had a fascination with the name Zayn when I was a teenager. I mean, anybody from my generation probably also had a little bit of that, well, especially growing up in Northwest London. But I remember I could actually imagine him like coming through the window, and it felt so real, and I never stopped. I think now it's called maladaptive daydreaming. I figured out with intense therapy. But anyway, let me stop speaking. Sorry, Kathleen.
Never stop speaking. No, I felt that. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like either boy band members or yes, just people you just make up in your head who get to be your friend. I, grew up around a lot of white people. And so I would just like make up these friends that looked like me and would make me feel less lonely. So I feel that. And so there's so many aspects of girlhood and womanhood that you cover in this book. And some of it is the stuff that, doesn't typically get talked about. So I feel like, the answer to this is always yes, but is writing a way for you to process and deal with some of those unspeakable, or the things, the quiet part that we don't say. Is that a way for you to deal with that and to kind of work through trauma?
Absolutely. To be honest, before I had access or the means or the privilege or even the education to like the knowledge to know that there are other ways to seek help, or the only way that I had to self-soothe, to comfort, to regulate my emotions, to process, to figure it out was writing. And I'm so thankful I was able to find that, because it was literally the only difference between me and every single other family member I had, every friend I went to school with, who found it like, who, because of the ways that in which we grew up and the backgrounds that we were coming from, the socioeconomic background and the class and everything like that, life was going to be difficult. And teachers told you this. Teachers in my high school would tell you, like, you're not going to amount to anything. Like, they would look you in the eye and tell you, you will be getting pregnant very soon. Like, so I know you're not paying attention in class, but it doesn't really matter. So can you just go hang out in the corridor? And so for me, writing saved me from that. But then another great quote is Alice Walker quote, which I don't want to butcher, but she says something along the lines of that writing saved her from the sin and inconvenience of murder. And so for me, especially as a youth, I had really bad anger management issues. And writing helped me through every single thing. Like, it's the only reason why I write. And I feel so blessed that like other people want to read this stuff, because it is truly just so that I can get through life. That's why I write.
Wow, that Alice Walker quote, that's gonna stay with me. I don't know that one.
Yeah, man.
That's I love that. I love that so much. So we're talking about girlhood, and I feel like girlhood is misunderstood, and a lot of conversations around it is very condescending. And we know that Black girls need these words, specifically Somali girls need your words and need to feel like they belong. So what is it about girlhood and adolescence that you still connect to and that you want people to know?
Well, it's the like pivotal years, the formative years, the years where, I feel like, for me personally, so there were certain things if I didn't do at that age, I don't think I ever would have done. For example, being so what people call vulnerable and brave, which is just basically being honest. when I was younger, I didn't really have the time or even the foresight to really think about what is it that I'm sharing, how is it going to come across, do I care about what people think. I just had that young passion of being it's youthful dreams and hopes and aspirations, and around that time things can happen to you that will can completely alter the rest of your trajectory, like everything that you're going to amount to. And being a young Black girl and being an adolescent girl, the most obviously unprotected, most disrespected, well, we can use every single quote that we could think of. And that's why the poem I was reading, Victoria, is very important to me, because she comes from Ivory Coast, that's an African country, and she was taken to the hospital. The police were involved, like teachers knew about it, but nothing was done. And that happens over and over and over again. So I'm sorry, I just feel like I'm going all over the place. But what I'm trying to say is that, if no one else cares, oh, that's what Tupac says. If nobody else cares, Tupac cares. But that's how I feel, because what an amazing bunch of quotes I've shared with you today. But I truly grew up thinking, who cares? No one cares. I'm raising myself. I'm raising my sisters. The teachers don't give a crap. The adults are traumatized. There is no one that really looks like you to really look up to, especially growing up in the UK. Back then, there was no that much representation. There still isn't, for Black people in general. And then coming from such a young community, newly immigrant refugee community, who are deeply traumatized and are being met with intense racism and xenophobia. So putting all of that together, I felt like I had no future. I felt nobody cared. And so now that I have figured out that I do have a future, and I now know that people do care, I need to make that. I need to add to that, and I need to make sure that girls like me, people like me in general, that there are others like you. We're the same. I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. I'm writing about you. We're connected. And everything's going to be okay. And if anything, also, I hope that it inspires people to pick up the pen when they're feeling rubbish. And I know it might feel corny or cliche, or but everybody's trying to be a poet, or everybody's trying to write. No, it doesn't matter. Just get your diary. I had a real fear, paranoia that people were going to read my diary when I was younger, especially if you grow up in families like mine where everybody's all up in your business. And I just didn't feel like I could be honest. So what I would do is I would write it and then I would burn it. So there are all these apps with passwords and all this different stuff that you can do. Just lay it out, write about it, and I swear to God it will help you. And you also might be an amazing writer. So yeah, and then other people need to read that.
I think there's people listening to this who needed to hear that. And also, I just needed to hear that. So thank you. I think that so much of what you do as well is not only allow people to feel seen, but allow other people to in on an experience that they might not have been privy to. And I want to talk about Home, a poem that is so beautiful and has gone viral many a times. But how does it feel right now? Because it is a poem about being a refugee, and it has gained traction and is all over social media again, this time in the context of another war, but not the one you were referring to or writing about. So how does that feel? I love it. Well, I think it's just so sad that it's so sad and so blatant and so obvious that there is a hierarchy in suffering. And it's always been evident. And what's actually quite chilling is that
I feel like it's not even being hidden anymore. It's just like in your face right now that, yeah, we care about this because they're blonde and they have blue eyes. How could it happen to them? And it's like, wow, it's really tone deaf, like to the rest of the world. But suffering is suffering. The other side to it is obviously like every single time I get a message saying, we want to share this poem in our synagogue, we want to share this poem in our church, we want to share this poem in this country, like that, I didn't even like, didn't even occur to me. So what's amazing is that awareness is being raised and people are being helped. But it's not lost on me that I am a Black writer who wrote this about Black refugees specifically because nobody cared. And then my words are being used for everybody except for the people that I wrote about. I mean, what else is there to add to that other than, even in the middle of a war, people have time for racism, people have time for anti-Blackness, everybody wants to be above somebody else. And I'm going to share another quote that I do love to share for this particular question. It's because Andre 3000 said it best. Across all cultures, worldwide, darkest people suffer the most. Why? And so I need somebody to answer the question why. I guess I know why, but
sure. I mean, it doesn't make it any more. Yeah, it doesn't make it any less infuriating that we know why, or that it's inevitable, or that we expect it. And it's so interesting, like how blatant it's been through this. I, on your behalf, I'm just going to say it. I get pissed off when I see your words used in a way that is perpetuating this idea that this war is more special, or that these refugees are more important because they are blonde-haired, blue-eyed, which people are saying out loud, actually. Just like, wow, we knew y'all felt like this, but you're saying it out loud. Wow. But anyway, I'm really upset because they're beautiful words and they do apply to the refugee experience universally. But you were talking about a very specific experience. And I think that, we can't have this conversation and not point out how they've been co-opted, which is... co-opted on so many levels. I mean, actually, even through, as different countries in the Middle East were slowly going through their wars as well. I mean, I can tell what the refugees look like based on how much traction the poem is getting, which is so sad. When everything was happening with Haitian immigrants, it was used here and there, but not that much because nobody really cares about Black people, sadly. And then when it's happening it's just really disappointing. Mainly, it's deeply disappointing. And I know it's supposed to be hopeful and everything, but I just don't think that's ever going to change. So I try not to give it too much energy. If it helps anyone, then I'm happy. But I'm not stupid. I can see what's happening. Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably the healthiest and only way to think about it. But know that it has helped a lot of people, and people who look like you and who look like us. Okay, we have to talk about the one person I'm sure you get asked about the most. And has one name. She is my life. Beyonce.
Delicious Beyonce. That's why
Beyonce. No, I legitimately pray to her sometimes. No disrespect to the other God I pray to sometimes, but legitimately, I pray to Beyonce. So take me back to the beginning because your first collaboration with her was Lemonade, and I like to ask people like Sydney Shaw and Brown Sugar. Have you seen Brown Sugar? Do you know that reference? Okay. So she asked everybody, when was the first time you fell in love with hip hop? I like to ask, when was the first time you fell in love with Beyonce? So before the collaboration.
Well, I'm ready. Thank you.
When did you fall in love with Beyonce?
When she was sitting there with Destiny's Child and Wyclef Jean, and they said, Sweden, no. That was the first time. I was like, what the hell?
Turtle Bob.
Yeah. When she started off slow and then when the changes. Listen, I listened to every single I was a child of the Destiny's Child, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What a stupid sentence, but I was obsessed. They got me through everything. And then when she released Dangerously in Love, I had a little Discman, one of the first albums, as well as Linkin Park, who I had an obsession with at the same time. I would just swap those two CDs, and those were really, really lovely times, actually. But I've always loved Beyonce. She, like for many Black women, I think if you've got like a beating heart, me and my friends always got emotional about her. We'd watch her documentaries and just be like, that's Beyonce, because she was inspired, like she is inspiring in every, like for many of us, she was representation of what it meant to be beautiful, what it meant to be cute, what it meant to be sexy, what it meant to be talented, what it meant to be dressed well, what it meant for your family to love you, to have the backup of your sister, like to have all your friends like backing you up. I think and it was like, I mean, all the songs like, Bills, Bills, Bills and Bugaboo. And listen, I spent all my adolescence doing karaoke to Destiny's Child and Beyonce. That's the answer to that question. So, and also Brown Sugar. Thank you for asking that question, because those kind of films were part of my, like, how do I explain it? All I would do is basically find every single Black film, every single Black book, that's all I did. So Brown Sugar, around the time when I would get those bootleg DVDs, I was like, oh my God, Jill Scott and Mos Def, their little thing that they had going on in there as well.
Queen Latifah, but yes.
Oh, sorry.
I know, I
being recorded.
No, but Sydney Shaw is one of the voices who raised.
You know what it is? Oh, okay. Well, do you know what it is? I think in my head also, because neo soul, obviously, right? I think I always just had this fantasy of Jill Scott and Mos Def together, and because Jill Scott represented us thicker women, when I saw Queen Latifah with Mos Def, I was like, oh, I can work. Like physically, I like it. So, but it was still Jill Scott in my head because I had those dreams. Anyway, sorry, moving on.
I feel you. Okay, so you talked about watching Beyonce's documentaries, and so I'm going to quote one of her quotes in one of her documentaries, which is when she says, until I see some of my notes applied, it doesn't make sense for me to make more, which is, I'm obsessed with that quote, but also obsessed with how Beyonce works, and also a little bit terrified, respectfully. And so I want to know how it feels to like send Beyonce words that she is going to, first of all, give notes on and then perform, and just how terrifying, like the thought of that makes me want to crawl into myself, but also it would probably be the most honor, ridiculous, amazing thing. How does that feel?
Well, so I have low level anxiety every single day of my life, right? So it always feels, and I'm afraid of heights, but my day-to-day life, unfortunately, does feel like when you're at the top of the roller coaster and it's just about to go down. So when I'm actually asked to do stuff that has a lot of pressure, is genuinely terrifying, another part of me kicks in that is like, oh, I'm ready for this. I've been doing the fight or flight my whole entire life. This is for an actual reason. And I think also because the way that the writing process around Lemonade was that, so I went to go meet her, she played the album for me, then she told me, gave me the album to take away, and then she said, can you write to it? So just for context, my whole writing process is writing to music anyway. So when she said that to me, I was like, ooh, I've been doing this my whole life. I really felt like, have I been training for this? Oh my God, I'm ready. So then the music was so emotive. So, I mean, we've all heard it. It's fucking Lemonade. Like, what a beautiful album. And so, and we've all been heartbroken, and we've all been in love, and we've all been through all that crap. So it was really like, it came out on me very, very easily and very quickly. And so I had so much to show her when I showed it to her. And the first time was terrifying. But when I realized, oh, she likes it, Like, she really likes it. Like, she genuinely loves this shit. So then I can't really go wrong. I just need to figure out how to do this the best way, like how to make, just do it to the best of my ability. And so it was a really good working experience. It did give me a lot of confidence because it did work so well. And so therefore there wasn't a moment of awkwardness at all. It just felt so natural. Everything that I sent over, it was like, oh, it works. All right.
You couldn't tell me anything. I would be insufferable about this for the rest of my life. If Beyonce liked my shit, I'd be like, you can't tell me nothing. Like, that's I like Beyonce like my shit though. I don't care. Any comment I got from anyone on the internet, I'd be like, I don't care about you. Beyonce likes my shit. Anyway, I'm just saying. Ooh, but that's because you're that good though. Okay, so after Lemonade, everybody, I'm sure, knows the story that you kind of retreated from public life and did the opposite of what a lot of people would expect, after someone gains that much attention and they get famous, they go viral, their work is so well known. You didn't, milk the moment, as they say. And we started the conversation talking about the timing and how much time you took with this collection. But why did you choose to add another quote in here from Michaela Cole, like disappear for a while and see what happened in the silence?
Well, I love her. She's amazing, Michaela Cole as well. I think it's interesting because, this idea of what it means to retreat, but I don't think I ever came out of the retreat. So it was like, I didn't go back anywhere because I just stayed where I was. I just didn't do any of the, right after, obviously you get asked, well, not obviously, this was all new to me as well, but you get requests like, do you want to do like an advert for blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to do it because I never would have done it. Like, I'm just not interested. So I didn't understand why now I had to contort myself into and just turn into a different human being. I didn't understand the need for it because I worked with Beyonce, right? And we did the project and I'm really proud of it. I think it's beautiful. She thinks it's beautiful. Now this has given me access and ability to be able to get the therapy I've always needed, to sit down and actually spend time writing, which a lot of writers can't do because we need to pay bills. So why would I feel like for somebody else, you have to do whatever comes natural to you. For me, I don't even, right now being in front of the camera is already making me sweat. This is the most as I can do. And the only reason why I'm able to do it is because I feel like I'm just talking to you and it feels like I'm just talking to a friend. But I have, like I said to you, I'm actually quite shy. Would I say I was shy? I think if you don't know me, I can come across as very, very reserved, very, very shy. I'm just a nervous person. And so I wasn't going to do a Dove advert. I wasn't going to, I don't know what was expected. But actually, let me ask you, what would you have, who am I asking? I guess, do you find it odd that I didn't do the expected things? And what are the expected things?
So I don't find it odd because I just don't think that a lot of people would have had the courage to do that. So I feel similarly, and that like also on camera stuff I'm also sweating, and I'm a producer, writer, behind the camera person, and so I can't imagine if I was in that position, like wanting to do a lot of the things people would have been asking me to do, but I also don't think I would have had the courage to say no. I think I would have just done it because it was expected, and people were like, "Oh, this is what you have to do if this happens." I think I don't know if I would have had the faith in myself enough to be like, "No, I'm just gonna go do what I do," instead of being like, oh, "I have to do this because everybody's expecting me to."
It's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, also though, it came at a good time because Lemonade came at a time when I was developing boundaries for the first time in my life. Like before then, I didn't have any. Like, it was horrific. I mean, if anybody out there is struggling with people pleasing or worrying about what people think or just doing something because you're nice, like, I did enough of that. I used to be the kind of person who would, like, you know, if you're laying on me and my arm is numb, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to, you know, like, and I hated that about myself. I used to get home at the end of the night and just be like, why can't I advocate? Why can't I speak up for myself? Like, do I not think I'm good enough to say, you know what, my arm's actually numb, can you get off, basically? Like, and that was just an example of how I perpetually put myself in weird situations. So I think, honestly, working with her probably was like one of the last things in my confidence around them that allowed me to be actually like, you know what, I've been kind of allowing people to take advantage of me for years now, and I'm not doing it anymore. And also, though, I do have to say, shout out to the people I work with, my friends, my family, because nobody said to me, hey, you need to be on a red carpet. You need to be doing, nobody said that to me because they also knew my personality. Like, that wasn't going to work for me anyway. So, I mean, I guess it could be seen as courage, but also, I think it's nice to hear your perspective, because for me, in some ways, I just felt like, oh man, I'm too nervous. I can't do this stuff. And also it feels weird and gross. I don't want to do it.
No,
so if things feel weird and gross, you don't have to do it. That's all.
Don't do it. You don't have to do it. I love that advice. I want to get some of these really great audience questions that are coming in. So Courtney Rodney Brown, hi Courtney, is asking, as a young Black woman unsure if motherhood is for me because I so badly do not trust the world we live in. Whew. And I recognize that this world will co-raise my children. How has motherhood changed your worldview and in turn affected your writing? Wow.
Yeah, man. I wasn't
ready for that. But yeah, how has motherhood changed your worldview and in turn affected your writing?
So, Courtney, that's such an important and special question. So, because I had to raise my sisters from a young age, I always was just naturally maternal. So, not naturally. I mean, it forced upon me. Let's be real. I mean, but from a very, very young age, I also just loved babies, and I always wanted to be a mother. And one of the big fears that I had, like perpetually, that I always carried in the back of my head, was that I might not be able to. And then when that became a possibility, I had like a miscarriage and these fertility issues a few years back. I really had to sit and think about, okay, what's going to happen if I'm not a mother? What's going to happen? Do I want to adopt? Is this like, I just really genuinely had to think about my expectations and this whole idea of what we deserve. You know, people, like, that's not how life works. I really don't, I like to be very, very, very realistic. So I remember just thinking to myself, okay, is it important for me to be a mother? Yes, it is. So I knew that whatever happened, I was going to raise some children, whether I gave birth to them or whether I adopted them, and I still want to adopt. So that being said, I tried not to spend too much thinking about like what could go wrong, because things can always go wrong. I mean, my mum was super, super happy and elated when she found out she was pregnant with me. She didn't know what was going to break out a year later. Like, it was all going to, she was living in a beautiful home with a man that she just married, and all this new gold, and her hair was gorgeous. She had these like long braids. Actually, she looked quite similar to you, Kathleen. Like, the photos are beautiful. She had gorgeous braids, but she was like thinking like nothing could go wrong and it still be snatched from underneath you. So when I look at my children now, obviously I do get terrified. I am worried. I do think, what is this world? But I also think, like, what is this world for any of us? I mean, you just, if you bring a life into this world, all you can do is give them the most love, the most support, make them feel so loved and comforted and special. And then whatever happens, happens. I mean, if we're all going to go out in a nuclear war, live it up before it happens. That's all. What else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do?
If you want to be a mother, I know it's, for me, I'm less terrified about what is happening in the world. I'm more terrified about passing on my mental health issues to my children. And so those are the things I worry about and I do think about. But ultimately, you do need to just live from moment to moment, and that's all that happiness is. Like, I try not to think about it too much. If you want to be a mother, don't let this shit terrify you. But it is terrifying, and that's okay as well.
It is. And also, I think one of the things you can do is try to create work or art that helps make that world a little bit better, or a little bit safer. And I think that's what you're doing, 100%. And so our next question is from Blessing Nwodo. I apologize if I did not pronounce that right. So glad to be in this space with you, Warsan. Did it take time for you to talk about your writing because of the weight your words carry, and how did you work through that?
Like, talk about it like this?
I guess, yeah. That's what I would assume. Talk about maybe the topics, because so much is heavy.
Yeah, I'm always more interested in what other people have to say about my work, because I think I go into this space where I just like, my writing process is actually a little bit creepy. So I don't think it's kind of like I go into this like kind of trance, and then when I write and it comes out, and I haven't really spent much time thinking about the poetics, like, who is this poem for? What is it about? What am I trying to do with this? What mark will it have on the world? Who is it supposed to connect to? I genuinely can't have to do all this thinking afterwards, even though I know that there's so much innate in it. Like, my politics and I think the politics and the personal is so completely like enmeshed for me that I really love listening to other people tell me what they picked up from my work, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Because I actually I ain't got the time.
Like, oh, yeah, that was on purpose. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, I know what's important to me. I know how I see the world. It's not that difficult for me to speak about, because if it's, I try to make it as if I try to be really clear that everything that I'm saying is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm not speaking in generalizations. I'm not representing a massive group of people. This is how I feel, and these are my stories or my secrets or my poems. And yeah, I mean, you just can't. Yeah. I hope I answered that, Blessing. I like your name.
Me too. So I want to get to this last question of mine, and if we have time for one more audience question after that, I'll take it. But because your work does deal with so many heavy, tough topics, but also I feel like there is joy radiating through your work, and it is uplifting. And honestly, there's stuff I read just to like hype me up sometimes. But I love asking this question specifically of Black women. What is the most joyful thing you do, and how do you prioritize rest and joy?
Oh, what a lovely question. Well, I have to like completely immerse myself in, I have to completely be covered in water from head to toe every single day, or I don't feel right. And to some, that's like, well, duh, you shower every day. But I mean, like, just stand in the water. Some people don't shower every day, but I need to get into the water. Like, there was a time, honestly, okay, this sounds horrible, but there was a time when I was like quite depressed, and I had a bath like 6-7 times a day, to the point where my skin started to bleed from dryness. So that's how seriously I take rest and relaxation. For me, it's really, really, really important, honestly, though, to wake up and have very, very specific routine. Everything from skincare to like flossing. Make sure you brush your teeth. Basically, every single, like, from shaving my legs to making sure I have nice perfume on, to putting lipstick on, to putting a bit of makeup on, to lighting candles, to cleaning the home, to going on walks or rolling a spliff. Did I say that? I mean, like looking out the window. Do you know what I'm saying? Who said that? Watching Real Housewives of every single city. but no, I make sure that I try to enjoy every single day of my life currently by doing something that calms me down, something that I find delicious, I really love being around children and hearing them laugh. But I do have a lot of routines, and if I don't do them, like something as simple as I like to make sure my nails look good. I know it's a bit weird, but I hope somebody relates, because do you ever, your nails are gorgeous. I told you, I gave you all the compliments. I want to see yours. Oh, please don't. Right now, it's not a great time, as you can see. Bro, I want everybody to know.
You just said, I didn't want to put you on the spot like that, but you just said your nails are always looking good.
I'm actually, I just came from like a funeral and I had COVID and all this stuff, blah, blah. But I'm actually going to be getting my nails done right after this finishes. They were originally inspired by Dolly Parton. They've got like little gemstones and whatever. But when you're dragging luggage and they go, and it hurts forever. Anyway, but what I was saying is something as small as making sure your hair is done, your eyebrows are done, your nails are done are really, really important, because when they're not, I realize that I go to self-loathing much quicker. And I look at myself in my reflection and I'm like, that person is worth nothing. I know that's really, really fucked up. So I do everything so that when I am feeling bad and look in the mirror and I'm like, still cute. And that helps me keep going. How vapid, how vain, I'm just being honest.
No,
it's really important.
Absolutely the same. One of my mentors taught me this, is like a bold lip can fix anything. And so I put on a bold lip a lot of the time just to feel alive. Okay.
I know time is running out, but
time is running low. So we have one more question. This is from Miriam. As an artist, my question is directed towards our responsibility as creators, tackling topics and themes related to the communities we come from. Do you deal with backlash from within your community for your work? And how do you navigate that while honoring the integrity of your own personal artistic vision and voice? And happy Ramadan to you and your family.
Oh, Ramadan Kareem. Yeah, this question is interesting because I get it asked quite often, but I've never received any backlash. I'm so grateful that all I've ever gotten from my community specifically, and I think maybe it has something to do with Somali community specifically being quite matriarchal and the women basically run things. And so I don't know, and poetry is such a completely intrinsic part of our culture that also nobody really bats the lid that, she's writing poetry, because we all write poetry. So and yeah, I've never experienced anything negative, just all positive. And I wonder why that question comes up quite a lot, because I don't know what the backlash would be about. I mean, if it's going to be because of I don't wear hijab and stuff, I mean, there's going to be backlash against everybody.
Yeah, the second part of that isn't a question, but I'm going to throw this in. Miriam says, P.S. I am a daughter of a poet. She was not allowed to write in the patriarchal framework we come from, so she rebelled, changed her name, and published multiple books in her short lifetime on this planet. More power and safety to you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Oh, I love it.
That was a really nice question to end on. Thank you. And I selfishly, because I didn't get to hear one of the poems I wanted you to read, and I also didn't get to ask about it, so I'm going to end on it. It is called Angela Bassett, Burning It All Down, because I also think this is the energy that we should all take into the rest of our days.
Well, thank you for reminding me. I did completely Okay. Angela Bassett, Burning It All Down. That year, the wives in my family packed secret suitcases, eyed the front door, fumbled with lighter fluid. One stabbed her man in the groin, said the look of disbelief in his eyes made it worth it. Bitches hysteria, the men called it. Natural response, the women named it. My mother did not snap. Instead, she stretched, watching yeast ferment. Instead, she busied herself with the process of preserving meat. For years, I've watched her from the corner of my eye, willing her to burn it all down. Thank you. It was so lovely to chat with you, Kathleen. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's here.
Yes, thank you all so much. Thank you, Warsan. This was just so beautiful. It was such an honor to be in your presence. Thank you so much. Oh, I love this collection. If you do not have it already, please buy this collection and buy it from an independent bookstore, a Black-owned one, if you so please. Yeah, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you, Penguin Canada. Thank you to the AGO. Thank you all so much for joining us. Bye.